Greetings. I'm Laura Lavin, President of the League of Women Voters of Delaware County. Welcome to this forum for candidates for United States Congress in the 7th Congressional District of Pennsylvania, the Democrat incumbent Joe Sestak and his Republican challenger, Craig Williams. We are extremely grateful to Swarthmore College for hosting this event. The League is a nonpartisan organization that encourages informed participation in government. To inform citizens about elections and candidates, we sponsor forums like this one and publish nonpartisan voters' guides. On Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th, your ballot will include candidates for President, Congress, Pennsylvania Attorney General, State Treasurer, State Auditor, and the Pennsylvania Legislature, as well as a statewide referendum on a water bond issue. For information about all these candidates, please visit our online voters guide at smartvoter.org. Just enter your zip code, and with a few clicks, you can download candidate information and a personalized ballot to take with you to the polls. Our moderator is Barbara Dietrich, a member of the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania. She will explain the rules and introduce the candidates. Barbara.
Thank you, Laura. After I introduce the candidates, they will each make a 3-minute opening statement, followed by written questions from the audience. The forum will conclude with 3-minute closing statements by each candidate. The order of speaking has been determined by a coin toss. Please join me now in welcoming Congressman Joe Sestak and his challenger, Craig Williams. Our second question, on the economy. How do you propose to stimulate the economy in the 7th District? Mr. Williams, you may begin.
Thank you. The economy is the issue of the day. There can be no doubt about it. The question first begins with this bailout. The economy tanked over the last 3 weeks because there was no liquidity in the market. There was no liquidity in the market because people were extended mortgages they could not afford, subprime mortgages. The first thing I want to see is accountability. I want to get to the root cause for us needing to extend $700 billion in credit to banks and other lending institutions to buy not things, but secure instruments. I think that $700 billion $700 billion bailout is very much connected to the $700 billion we pay every year to foreign countries for their oil. I want to put America back to work. I want to build a new energy infrastructure that is like none else in the world. That means exploring in ANWR. That means drilling offshore. That means coal to liquid technology, new nuclear power plants, and natural gas. Natural gas is our short-term solution. We have more of it than anyone else on the planet. But this bailout, you know it's not the last one. You know it in your heart of hearts. And we're buying up poisonous mortgages and preferred stock in banks. I don't want to own stock in banks. And I can't imagine that you do either. If the government is going to go out there and put money back into the marketplace, let's own something for it. In the Great Depression, the government bought houses. If we're going to extend help for mortgages, let's go get the houses so that at the end of the day, we have something we can sell back into the marketplace. That is a wise investment. Throwing money at the problem is only going to perpetuate it. And I want to, at the end of the day, get down to the bottom of Fannie and Freddie. Fannie and Freddie are what's called government-supported enterprises. They have an extremely cozy relationship with the United States Congress. That means that the White House and the Congress basically direct Fannie and Freddie what to do, and it was the Congress that told them to go out and extend subprime mortgages to people who couldn't afford it. And then Fannie and Freddie began to cook the books, come back to the U.S. Congress, and lie about the state of their affairs. And you and I pick up the tab because they were telling lending institutions all across America that they had the liquidity that was necessary to back these mortgages when they knew that they did not, and came to the floor, to the committee hearings of the U.S. Congress, and led the Congress to believe there was plenty of liquidity when they knew that there was not. And here you and I are, our taxpayer money, going to bail out these institutions. I want to make sure that it never happens again. We either cut Fannie and Freddie loose to go back and compete with the rest of the lending institutions, or we so heavily regulate these government-supported enterprises that we don't have the cozy relationship going back and forth between Congress and these GSEs that will perpetuate this fraud on you and me. And finally, I want to see prosecutions. That's the only way we will send a message to the American people and to, more importantly, Wall Street, that we're not going to put up with this. That they have hurt all of us. But at the end of the day, it's jobs. It's jobs. Let's you and me build America back to its greatness. Let's go build pipelines from Alaska down to Detroit to carry natural gas. Let's go drill offshore. Let's build 45 new nuclear power plants. Those are jobs. Jobs mean income. Jobs mean new revenue for the government. Job means health care for Americans. That's the strength of our country, and let's build it back up.
Thank you. The same question to you, Mr. Sestak. How do you propose to stimulate the economy in the 7th District?
There are 3 steps that need to be taken. First, we have to put out this financial firestorm that's ripping across America. Second, we must resolve the issue of the $10 trillion debt that this nation has. $5 trillion of it added by President Bush, 47% of it owned by a foreign country. That's not economic security. And third, we must invest wisely and well in our education system for the right types of educated workforce, for instance, in renewable energy. I wrote my very first letter to Mr. Bernanke and Mr. Paulson back in February when Billy Adolph, local Republican representative, called me and said, Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency has stopped giving education loans to our kids who want to go to college in Pennsylvania because the mortgage crisis has leaked over into bonds for loans for education. Their answer, we can handle it more generally. 7 months later, they were wrong. I worked hard to make sure that 30 FBI investigations are ongoing today, and Fannie, Freddie, AIG, and Lehman Brothers and others. I've written a letter to the Attorney General to say we need to do more. And in this financial stabilization bill that's called the bailout, I stood tall both times and voted for it. And in it, I said first, what we need to do is go in and make sure that the profit is given back to the taxpayer. When we go in, we get a warrant in every company like Bank of America, and when their stocks go back up, we get and execute that warrant a share of the profits. And at the end of 5 years, if we don't get all the money back that we invest, a fee is to be placed by law on the financial industry. Second, we go in and we rip out all the excess executive compensation that was given for misleading statements in Bank of America, Fannie and Freddie, etc. A year and a half ago, I voted for an oversight agency to be placed to reform Fannie and Freddie, to look into undue compensation, to look at their operations and their management and their credit lending. And then what we need to do is take and stop how blighted neighborhoods are springing up throughout America, and that's what this bill does. It goes in and it says, you're about to foreclose. We won't have community taxes to be able to support our schools. Come forward, write down, and you lose, homeowner, and you lose who owns the mortgage, down to 85% of today's market value. Stay in your house, you get a fixed rate, and when that house gets flipped in a year, the United States government gets 100% of the profit. You do. And any time in 5, 20, 100 years you flip that house, we get 50% of the profit. Tough love, you betcha. But that's what's needed today. Then we have to step back. Whoa, I shouldn't have hit it. Then we should, could I have 5 extra seconds? And then we need to step back and take care with the right approach for our tax policy and this debt. I have always respected Republicans, true Republicans, who balance their checkbook at the end of the day. How could they have given each of you $30,000 debt to pay off in the coming years when over the majority of all President Bush's tax cuts, which he wants to extend, will go to the top 1% of all wage earners in America? I'm for middle-class tax cuts. I voted for it last year for 98,000 of my constituents, got signed into law. And 100,000 of my constituents this year, middle class, got their tax cuts. My bill, which we have voted for and balances the budget in 2012, extends all middle-class tax of $346 billion. But when the last Bush tax cut gave $52,000 to a millionaire and only a few $100 if you earn $40,000 or below, no, that's not fair. I'm for middle tax relief. And then invest wisely as we go forward into education. It's why I fought not just the Business Committee, but the Education Committee, and I'm out of time. But I hope we get into energy and all that. Thank you.
30-second rebuttal, Mr. Will.
I'm glad that taxes came up, because as it turns out that the vote this year by Joe was for the largest budget in the history of our country that came with it, the largest tax increase in the history of our country. If you make $42,000, your taxes are going to go up nearly double, from $4,500 to nearly $9,000 in taxes. That's not a tax cut for the middle class. That is a doubling of the taxes on the middle class. And we need to start telling the truth about these Bush tax cuts that are so maligned. It is marriage penalties gone, the doubling of the tax or the child dependent credit, a new 10% tax bracket down at the bottom of the progressive tax scale. These are taxes that benefit every single one of us.
30 seconds.
Craig, that's a mischaracterization. The bill that I voted for actually gave and extended every single middle-class tax cut, the marriage relief tax cut, the child tax cut, the tuition tax cuts, every single one for $346 billion to you. But yes, it didn't give all the wealthy, the corporations, and the millionaires. It just says, we'll wait in 2010 to see if they can get it. If not, we have to balance our budget. Not keep adding under his plan another $5 trillion of debt. For every tax that the middle class got back in $1, you got $4 back in debt from President Bush.
The League of Women Voters thanks the candidates for their participation and Swarthmore College for providing the venue for this debate. We also want to thank our videographer, who is Warren Thomas. And we want to invite you and remind you that you need to go to the polls to vote on Tuesday, November 4th. This concludes the forum for the candidates for Congress from the 7th Congressional District. Thank you.